For every time period in history, there's always been one big bad country that the world fears and has to team up against, or at least globally hate. In the 19th century, it was the French. In World War II, it was the Germans, and in the Cold War, it was the Soviets. But for a while, there was no real world threat per se. I mean, you have Russia, a corrupt country who's invading Ukraine at the moment, but realistically, Russia's on its way out and has been for a long time. There's China, a rising power who is an authoritarian dictatorship, but China is not hell-bent on invading anything except maybe Taiwan. But recently, with Trump's coming to power and his strangely aggressive behavior towards even US allies, we might just have the world's new big bad on our hands, and it might just be the most dangerous one yet. There's a common theme when it comes to rising powers who will use that power for evil, and it's that they all have some sort of hard struggle or they have been wronged and it pushes them to an extreme ideology. Take Germany, for example. Germany, or the German Empire, was a recently formed empire that was created after a war with France. And after World War I, the empire was dissolved and the Weimar Republic was created, and as if having this unified German empire only lasted a grand total of 47 years, it was also placed under heavy military restrictions and a crippling amount of war reparations, which drove the already unstable economy straight into the ground. The Germans were suffering, and they were mad, so when Adolf Hitler came and said he could fix the German people's problems, they believed him, which of course led to the devastation of the Second World War. Suffering caused people to turn to extremist ideologies. You can see the same thing in the creation of the Soviet Union. People have been under oppressive Tsardom rule for centuries, and they were starving, so when a new ideology based around the idea of worker-ruled production and the country in the hand of the people, the Soviet people loved it. It didn't matter how far-fetched or unrealistic the ideology was, they just wanted something to free them from the pain and suffering no matter the cost. In America, we can see a similar trend. People have been having to fight with the government just to get progressive laws passed, and problems that cannot simply be ignored are being ignored. War crimes in other countries are happening 24/7, and the so-called peacekeeping nation of the United States of America is doing little to spread peace on a world stage and is letting the power and influence on other countries go to waste. With problems like global warming on the rise and nothing being done about it, people are getting frustrated. And let's be honest, while I personally believe a Democrat government in the United States is better, the Democrats sure weren't doing a lot to solve any problems. Solutions to problems were being ignored and things were moving slowly, so Trump used this to his advantage in his second running. He claimed he could fix things, like how he said he could solve the Russia-Ukrainian war in a day, and he stood up to oppressive authoritarian figures like Kim Jong-un. He used the people's feelings to his advantage. He demonized the left for problems, claiming the left is trying to destroy America. He often pins problems on transgender people who have nothing to do with this, and he's gradually removing their rights as well. I mean, take a look at this. He banned trans people from military service, he's removed LGBTQ plus resources from government websites, and has set laws against identification. He's dehumanizing them, just like Hitler did to the Jews back in the 1930s. It's a trend, but people are too blind to see it, and it's being covered up by the promised economic prosperity. However, what I'm not saying is that Trump is currently as bad as Nazi Germany or the Soviet Union, but every power works its way there slowly. There's this analogy I really like. If you get a frog and throw it in boiling water, it'll jump out. But if you put a frog in cold water and gradually heat it, it'll stay and be boiled to death without even knowing it. This is a lot like the current United States of America. The pot is boiling and the American people are the frog. If Trump suddenly took away all trans/LGBTQ rights at one time, everyone would freak out. Even historically homophobic religions would be scared and not okay with this. Even though Christians don't necessarily agree with LGBTQ, they would still say that they should have the same rights as everyone else. I know this because I'm friends with a lot of Christians and I've had this conversation before. Trump is slowly introducing new anti-LGBTQ plus laws that don't seem like the end of the world, but given a few years, the US might see LGBTQ plus people not considered people anymore. Shifting away from internal US politics, we can look outward to where Trump is for some reason hoping to expand. I live in Canada, and Trump's threats against my nation are a huge part of why I'm making this video, and I want to get this out there, so please like the video and leave a comment. It boosts the algorithm and helps out a ton. Thanks. On X, Trump makes continuous threats of annexation against Canada and has been pushing around Denmark to hand over Greenland. What makes this even worse is that Denmark and Canada are both very close US allies and have been for a while. To suddenly turn on them is super unexpected. Why would Trump even want Canada and Greenland? What drives the mind of Trump to threaten two of his closest allies? Canada has a ton of natural resources. I'm talking trees, oil, metals, and a ton of open land, but Trump can't use any of it because, well, it's not his. Owning Canada will make extracting all of the natural resources and turning Canada into a factory-ridden wasteland a lot easier. But I believe it's a lot deeper than that. Look at a map of North America. It looks like it's been divided into three parts: Canada, USA, and Mexico. Of course, this is ignoring Central America. But if the USA annexes Canada and Greenland, look how terrifying that looks. The USA would become the biggest country in the world, which even just saying sounds terrifying. When someone thinks strong, they think big. That's why Russia seems so scary even though its military is lacking proper equipment. In America, that owns most of the North American continent, seems impossible to go up against, not only for outside countries, but for civilians wanting progression inside the country as well. It's for intimidation. Could I be wrong and it's just for the resources? Yes. But it does seem plausible, no? I have one more thing to say. To my transgender, gay, lesbian, or hell, all of America, tyranny and oppressiveness is easier to solve before it gets out of hand. Do something. Anything. Doesn't matter how small or what it is you do, even if it's just raising awareness like how I'm doing with this video. It helps. Don't let America go down the same path as Nazi Germany. And to the people who support MAGA, if you want to make America great again, you have to open your eyes and see past the false, loaded words. Thank you.